Salutations viewers, you're watching Bavery. I'm Ben, and this week I'm going to look into the psychological condition known as synesthesia. Synesthesia is a neurological phenomenon which, as described by Harrison and Baron Cohen 1997, is the stimulation of one sensory modality automatically triggering a perception in a second modality in the absence of any direct stimulation of to the second modality. Now, I know that sounds very complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to simplify it. Basically, a sensory modality is just one of your five senses. And so what synesthesia is, according to Harrison and Baron Cohen, is that one sense is stimulated and it triggers you to perceive something in a second sense without actually having the stimulus to perceive that second sense. So, for example, you may smell a particular odor or hear a particular sound, and you may perceive a color in your visual field despite there not being a visual stimuli. Synesthesia is not a sensory association, which is when you, as it suggests, associate a particular smell with memories or people. So how some people will associate the smell of tobacco with their grandfather, or a particular aftershave with a close friend. And it's not a metaphor, which is when you use sensory descriptives to reinforce a point. This is an actual experience had by the person it is affecting. And it is not something they see, it is something they perceive. So they do not, if their synesthesia is around taste, and so certain sounds cause a certain taste in their mouth, they will not taste that taste, but they will feel like they are. There are many forms of synesthesia. The examples and data I will be using come from this book. This is Wednesday is Indigo Blue by Saito Wick and Eagleman. And so synesthesia can range from very, very common to very, very rare. So Sean Day gives a list of the most common and the most rare in his experience. So Graphene Color, which I will explore, is being found 66.5% of synesthesiacs, right down to touch temperature at 0.1% of the atypical population. I'm going to go through about 7 or 8 just forms to give you an idea of what I'm actually talking about. So number 1, graphene color. Individual letters or numbers, which are known as graphemes, are perceived to be shaded or tinted with a particular color. Wednesday's Indigo Blue gives the example of a girl who could write the letter P and it would appear yellow, but when she added a little kick that turned a capital P into a capital R, the actual shading changed to a more orangey color. Similarly, there is chromesthesia, where certain sounds can cause a specific color to be perceived, or certain sounds are accompanied with a particular color. One of my friends here at university has chromesthesia, and so when I make the crinkling sound of a cup that you'll get a drink at like fast food restaurants, and you put the straw in, it makes the crinkly sound on the plastic lid, he perceives that as getting static. He perceives that as a static color. There are numerical forms of synesthesia, such as spatial sequence synesthesia, where numerical sequences appear as points in space. So this is the number line will appear in space. So number 1 could be here, number 2 could be here. There we go. So you can actually still see my hand. Number form synesthesia is where numbers appear in a specific mental map or pattern. So if I had synesthesia, I could perceive the numbers from like 1 to 20, 1 starting here, and they'd form a line around my head, or a weird like snaking line. And that's how numbers are perceived, or when they think about numbers, this is how someone with number form synesthesia will see their numbers. We now get into the more rare forms, but not as rare as 0.1% of the population. Auditory tactile synesthesia is when certain sounds will induce sensations on a specific part of the body. So, a ringing bell could make your knee tingle, or a cat's meow could send a shiver up your spine. Misophonia is where certain words can trigger a specific negative emotion, so the specific word will trigger an emotion. So mud may trigger make you feel angry, or alcohol may make you feel uncomfortable or upset. Now, once again, this is not an association. Some victims of abuse have reported what could be perceived as misophonia, but is not misophonia. So if they have been abused by someone, by an alcoholic, they may feel wary when people talk about alcohol or when people drink alcohol, but this is not misophonia. This is an involuntary reaction. Mirror touch is a very, very rare form of synesthesia. This is where the individual can perceive the touches felt by others. So I could tap someone on the shoulder and someone with mirror touch synesthesia could look around because they think they've been touched on the shoulder. And finally, the rarest one I will talk about, lexical gastronomical synesthesia. This is where certain words elicit specific tastes to the individual. So, for example, the word soccer might make a weird bitter taste, or the word penny might cause a salty taste. So yes, that is just a brief look at synesthesia. Wednesday is Indigo Blue is a very good book. It's very, very simply written, and it's a very good way to get into looking at synesthesia, which is a fascinating condition, and there is very, very little research actually out there about it because it is very hard to actually study. Avery is in the process of making a new video for you guys. She's going to give you an update on her health, and I will be back in 2 weeks, and I will be doing a video about the Call of Cthulhu role-playing system. So I will see you then, guys.